We all know that Mondays aren't particularly terrible, and this Monday is no different. However, there is one tiny bit of addition to this Monday. It's that this is a terrible Monday. It's awful. It's absolutely the worst Monday ever. Why? Well, that's pretty easy. It's connected to the sentence. I did have the title of the video as terrible news, and despite not really having terrible news, I had to do some intro, didn't I? Well, yeah, that's right. That's all this. That's what's going on. It's terrible that I don't have anything terrible to say. Right. Now, let's go on and translate the sentence. I tell you what, there is some terrible news here. Not just because it's the sentence, but this is something that is kind of headachy in English. In Hungarian, if you watch closely, you'll see that when it comes to fiddling with the adjective, it's relatively easy. You have attachments. But in English, you use attachments for short words, and then you don't use attachments for long words for some reason. You would never say the terriblest news for you, but you would say the most terrible. Also, you wouldn't ever say the most big building, but then you go ahead and would use biggest building. But we're not here to learn English. We are here to learn Hungarian. So let's go ahead. Now, translating I have in Hungarian, that is also a little bit headachy. But let's see that what Google Translate comes up with. And that's, yeah, I mean, it is pretty spot on, I guess, but I always discourage people to use these sort of additional pronouns and things like that, because I noticed that most people who use these are fairly satisfied with the result using only these. But Hungarian is all about attachments, so it doesn't matter whether you use nekem or not. You have to use the proper attachment. And so the rule is that when you want to say a sentence with I have, you use one and then find what you have, which is the most terrible news, but in this case it's just news, and then write it down. I mean, yeah, short. Sorry, I forgot to actually. There you go. Here would be the short. And then you have to go around and look for probably dictionary is a good source. And then you're the processor, and then the single possession would be something, and it's my news, so that's here m, but then of course you need a connecting vowel, so as you can see em or but then you don't really have to remember all these. It's just m, d, then these little bad boys, and then nk and tok and uk. But of course, the more you get into Hungarian, the easier it gets to guess what the connecting vowel is, because even though there is, you cannot really have rules around this, because you would end up with 5 million of the rules, you can recognize patterns. Some vowels just are usually connected with other vowels and things like that. While you could say that Hungarian is a bit excessive when it comes to attachments, English is a bit excessive when it comes to providing the most amount of information with the fewest amount of or tiniest amount of words. So for you in there is somehow okay in English because you want to share more information. And if you had to use 2 short words, it's a good idea to share that information. It's mostly cultural. But in Hungarian, most of this is ignored. You rarely say my car if you can just say the car. You rarely say for you or something like that when it's obvious. Also, English has a tendency to actually say, I understand it, I see it, as opposed to if someone says, oh, can you see that bird? And then, yeah, I see. Would the Hungarian response be? But that's just weird. I know. Sometimes, obviously, I make the mistake of trying to say that, just correcting myself in the end, saying, I see it. And there you go. The day is saved. But here, because we do the reverse, we have to lose information. And I guess even though it's not a rule, you can take it as one or a rule of thumb or a pattern that you need to be aware of. It's okay to lose information when translating from English to Hungarian. You have to be a little bit more vague than what you're used to. Now, of course, if English is not your native language and your language, out of the thousands of the world, already does that, then you don't have to do anything at all. Doesn't matter, who cares? Just, do the same thing. If your language is a lot vaguer than Hungarian, then you might need to step your game up a bit. If that's even an expression. Well, I said it. So who cares? Right, let's go back to the sentence after losing all this information. So for you goes down the toilet. Have is non-existent because it's basically I have is is these two bad boys, this one and that one. Very, very important. Okay, so we'll get to what goes between later, but the most terrible news, let's go on with terrible. Szörnyű, yeah, that works. And there you go. Now, what happens if you actually want to translate it and that's not naked? That's the problem. Sometimes when you click on here, I guess you could give an improvement, but I'm not gonna do that. However, because Hungarian breaks for you down to further groups, I can say that Számodra is the best option, but for now I will not be able to tell you why you need to choose it. We'll talk about it later, when it is really, really needed and it's unavoidable. But for now, it's perfectly fine. And, well, there is this thing in Hungarian that for some reason here is countable. And here you can see that news is translated as hírek, but also hír. And of course in English new means új, and you can't really make it translate to hír. But yeah, that would be it. So hírem, and of course if you have multiple news, then you'd say híreim. You might have noticed that we did not finish translating the sentence. That's because there is just so much to do here that it's going to be a two-part episode, and the next part is coming later. And that's it. So this is the translation for today, and we've learned quite a lot of things. Well, okay, 2. Actually 3, if you count being more vague. But I've talked about being more vague in the past, so that's something you already know. I talked about how to create a possessive at some point, but here, now, is the definite explanation about how to do it. So it's always to be and then a possessive on the object. It's kind of a weird thing if you think about it. You have to be something describing that something exists, and then you have a possession. So something, that object, exists as my possession. It means I have it or I own it. There you go. In Hungarian, there is a word for owning something, birtoklom, or birtoklod, birtokolja, etc. But the truth is that we almost never use it because it just sounds weird. If I say I own a car all the time as opposed to I have a car, which in case of cars, it's kind of fine. But what about I own time? Probably not the best. Right. And the third thing that we learned today is that news in Hungarian is countable, and it has a plural and a singular form. And that is confusing when you learn English, because news is obviously has the S at the end, and that makes me think that it has singular version. So I have a new for you. I would be okay with saying that. Or I have many bad news for you. That also sounds good, doesn't it? Yeah, I know. It's music to the ears of native English speakers. Right, I'll leave you with that piece of information and I'll let you recover until tomorrow. And if you have any questions, as usual, the document link is in the description, and just you're welcome to comment your way through life or whatever. Anyways, so thanks for watching and see you tomorrow. Bye bye.